to be treated like a professional, act like a professional. Otherwise, I'm going to treat these footballers like children because they're acting like children.
Right, okay, playoff time, getting close to playoff time, now it means something. Yeah, I mean, why play 80 games? It's just shorten it then, so it stays competitive all the way through.
Only story coming out at the moment in the NFL that is really worth talking about is the Dallas Cowboys and how Jerry Jones is ballsing this up massively throughout this offseason with CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott.
Welcome back, guys. It's been a bit of a break, but I tell you what, a well-deserved break for both, because we come into what has been another great week of sport and more still happening as we speak right now. I've been on my travels, but so has Mr. Wilson. How are you, mate?
Mate, I'm feeling good. I've been diving up to Scotland to take in all the sport that Scotland is famous for, mainly golf, obviously, and had my trip to the Open, which was outrageously fun, and doing some whiskey tasting as well. But it seems that we've come back with the same sort of design ideas, because I've noticed that my hat and your shirt are very, very similar today, Sam. There's a lot going on with you. But can we
filming on Carnival weekend, Ollie? It's Carnival weekend. That's what we've gone for.
I forgot it was Notting Hill. Look, we don't need anything. Nothing needs to be mentioned about sport or anything like that, because last night the biggest news dropped, and that's that Oasis are getting back together. That's the biggest news of this bank holiday, surely. That's the best thing that could have happened. I'm mad for it, mate. Gone down Wembley, gonna watch Oasis, mate.
I want to start taking bets on how long it lasts before the two brothers have a punch up again. So yeah, it's nice that they've come out of the woodwork.
Night 4 on stage at Wembley, 100%. Our kid's acting like an absolute idiot back there. Liam comes out with he was holding his maraca at Reading last night in his mouth for about 30 seconds and stuff. He is, I think, the best frontman I've ever seen in my life for any band. He's so cool and weird at the same time. I love it.
I'm not into conspiracy theories and all that, but I will tell you, I do understand sometimes things come out a bit of distraction. Is this just one big distraction because there's still 115 charges out there for Man City? Just throwing that out there, is that the real reason they've come back?
They're donating 50% of the profit made from the gigs that they're going to be doing. Like the 10 shows at Wembley, 3 at Manchester, a load at the Millennium Stadium. 50% of that is going to balance the books at Manchester City. That's the rumour. That's the rumour on the street that I'm hearing. Obviously, we had a big weekend of Premier League football, but that's the big rumour coming out of the Premier League. Oasis are, along with the Emirati owners, plugging that hole just to fill up those 115 charges. Financial impropriety.
Yeah, it has to be. But I tell you wouldn't know that there was any charges hanging over their heads over there on the blue side of Manchester. Or the only thing I would probably say is the transfers have been slow. I think it's Savinio that's come in, good player, but he came from one of their sister clubs. So he's obviously come in on the cheap. Gundogan's obviously come back in because Barcelona just have no money. There's more flies coming out of pockets than there are euros over in Barca. So he's obviously had to come back because he wasn't getting paid. But they played Ipswich. You'd expect that sort of scoreline to be honest. They went 1-0 down. And obviously come back to with the four goals. But do you see? I mean, the Premier League is well and truly back, and it's great. There's already controversy, and there's loads of stuff coming back. Do you have City winning the title again?
Yeah, 100%. I was asked this last week. Somebody said, "Oh, do you see it being City?" I can't really see it being anybody else, to be honest. Just because, you talk about the lack of transfers. What really needs to change in that side? It's already considered the best footballing side on the planet right now. So, look, you can add potentially bits and pieces here and there, maybe for depth if there are injuries. I think if there's going to be any movement, a large part of it will actually end up coming in the mid-season transfer window to paper over any cracks that do appear. But it seems unlikely there'll be many cracks. They go 1-0 down to Sammy Schmodic's strike for Ipswich after 7 minutes. Inside 20 minutes, they're 3-1 up. It's staggering.
Insane.
You'd be impressed if it wasn't so sad about the financial irregularities hanging over their head. And I do think it's still a dark cloud over the club's head, because every time anything positive they do, in terms of the football they're playing. We should be loving this Manchester City side, like or hate the way they've gone about creating this great side. It is a great side to watch, and we should be loving it. But the fact that there's still the financial irregularities hanging over their head, it just takes the edge off enjoying what is arguably one of the best groups of players that we've seen put together, and is being coached by arguably the greatest manager of all time.
Yeah.
So it's a real
It's
shame. It's a real
tough.
negative stain.
It's tough because I kind of put them in the same boat as Red Bull a little bit. Like Red Bull sprinkled a little bit over what they should be doing, and it's put them ahead of the game. And then if you just go over the boundaries a few times on the bounce with it going unnoticed, well, over time, those little smidgens of going over the boundary leaves you well over and way ahead of your competition. And I think that's obviously one thing, like you say, kind of taints it. However, they found loopholes potentially here and there, which people do in every walk of life anyway, to get ahead. I look at Chelsea, who have been doing it now since Todd Bowley's come in, and they've got nowhere.
Mm.
So whilst they've been at potentially, allegedly, these charges are there and they've done wrong 115 times. You know, they've still gone and won. Whereas Chelsea, since Todd Bowley's tried to make these little adjustments, they haven't got anywhere. Albeit they were better this weekend against a Wolves side who aren't going to be the same Wolves we've seen of old. But yeah, it's easy one. It's a tough one. I've had Man City the last few years obviously winning it. This year is the year that I think Arsenal for me do it. And I know I'm sitting here in my Arsenal, one of my Arsenal jerseys, but I think this year is the year if we can get this squad right. Marino obviously joining the ranks in there at Arsenal gives us that extra sort of bit of padding in the middle of the park. I still do think we're a forward player short. You know, Gabriel Jesus picking up an injury straight away, and I think Arteta came out and said that we're a bit short in that area. If we can address that, and even if it's I don't even mind if it's like not necessarily an unknown, but it doesn't have to be this big hitter like 70, 80, 90 million. I'm talking someone who can play between the sticks when we're having to do something a little bit different and getting balls in the box. We saw Havertz obviously pick up a headed goal from a cross. I think if you start going in there where we've got such a tall side, just to be able to change it up, you know, when you need to, because even you watch City sometimes they get a little bit angry about how they play sometimes, but when they need that goal, suddenly bit more direct, and then they're putting balls in the box. They do what they need to do to get the win towards the end, and I think that's what if Arsenal can get that addressed in this window, I do think that City might just be undone. I don't know how 5 years on the bounce you can play that many games, Ollie. It's you're getting close to like 50 games, every year. I just it's an age inside it. I know Gundogan's come in, but he's aged. He's a great player, by the way.
Mm.
Not to say he can't play. De Bruyne, some of these older players now, like how do they continue to keep playing that many games? Can he get the rotation right enough? But yeah, I mean, I still think it'll be between them two. Liverpool still look like they'll still be third place. I'm still a bit unsure on the togetherness there. You saw Trent Alexander, Arnold obviously getting a bit aggy after the game. There's still like murmurs of things still not right there because I think someone best described it as the stepdad. Yeah, because Klopp's gone, Arnie Slot's come in. It's like that, you're not my dad. You can't tell me what to do, kind of vibe down there. But
you're obviously a man who's worked in football management. Arnie Slot coming in, how difficult is it to take over those sorts of reins? Have you ever walked into a job where a manager who's been actually rather quite liked has just departed, and the squad is looking at you and going, "Oh, you're not the guy that we enjoyed playing for last time." How do you win that over? How long can that process take? And is it almost an impossible task? We've discussed that with like the Moyes post Ferguson era, for instance, at Manchester United.
I'm a young manager in my career. I think every time I've taken over a job, it's because someone's been failing, which is not great. There is one example. There was one club that had come in, and to be fair, I was played under this guy as well, and yeah, he was a liked manager, like good gaffer, weren't doing so well, and then I was offered the job. Um, it was it's difficult because ultimately everyone that's there is there for that gaffer.
Mm.
That's it. And even the people that have taken over me now know that the 20 lads in the squad were brought in by me, and my team. And we've it's hard. You go in there and you need to suss out real quick who's actually there for the club, who's there, to achieve the common goals, and find out who it is that is there for Klopp. And I look at Trent. Mo Salah just seems like the professional, but you got to be there's certain players there who gave you your debut, who's put your arm around you when times weren't going well. Trent's been under the cosh. Oh, he's not a good right back. He's a centre midfielder. He's this and that. And Klopp always believed in him. Even when things weren't going right, he made it sound like Trent was the best right back in the world. He's There's rumours of him turning down advances from the likes of Real Madrid and stuff. So if you suddenly sat there and you're like, turn all this down and you're giving me this shit, who are you? That is the difficult bit. And I think that's where it's
Mm.
hard. You come into the change room, you've got to work out who it is that wants to continue and buy into your new ideas because they don't play the same way. It's not like they've brought in a gaffer that is like carbon copy in terms of style of play. It's completely different. So it is tough. It's tough, but at the end of the day, these guys are professional. These are professional players. I think you got to take it as like any other job, really. Ollie. Like at the end of the day, if you've got a new manager leaves and goes to another job in any other work, whether you're in a factory or anything like that, and someone else takes over, yeah, you suss out who that manager is and what they're like, but you're not going to just up and leave.
All
I don't
right.
think
All
that
right.
quickly.
These guys are professionals, right? What on
Hmm.
earth is a professional doing putting Instagram comments out the day before a game? I'm talking about Chelsea's hat-trick hero
Yeah,
against Wolverhampton Wanderers,
yeah.
Noni Maduke, and he put on Instagram, everything about this place is shit with the location of Wolverhampton the day before the game. Now, if we're going to treat these people like professionals, they need to act like professionals. And I'm telling you right now, I wouldn't walk into Sky Sports and the day before I walk into Sky Sports be tweeting, I tell you what, that Monday night football broadcast is a fucking joke. Like, not going to happen. A, because they do a really good job on that Monday night football broadcast 90% of the time anyway. But B, it's just not what you want to be doing. You wouldn't do that going into a football management job, going out to any other work that you're doing kind of out and about the place and on the hustle like I know you are, Sam. If you want to be treated like a professional, act like a professional. Otherwise, I'm going to
Mm,
treat these footballers like children because they're acting like children. And I know some of them are very young,
mm,
but you need to grow up and learn that things like this aren't acceptable to be doing and putting on social media before you go off to work the next day. A, it's rude to the
yeah.
area. B, it's just plain ignorant and quite a horrible thing just to say, especially an
Mm,
area that you've probably got no idea about at all in terms of either the history,
yeah.
the context of those people living there. And C, it's just plain ludicrous, isn't it? I mean, that's kind of A again,
Yeah.
really, but it's unbelievably sloppy. Not professional
It,
behaviour,
it
Mr. Wall.
is. It is. It's poor, and I know he said that it came off his other wrong account, but it's like he shouldn't be doing it anyway. If anything, if that a social media account is for your close friends or whatever it may be, then message him.
Yeah,
Even everyone can have an opinion. He's right. He's entitled to have an opinion, but keep that in your circle. No one needs to know that sort of stuff. People will like things and not like things. If he doesn't think it's a nice area, that's up to him. But he needs to keep that between his people. Yeah. So really poorly done.
it's a
And
good job
what
they
makes
won.
it worse for that? Well, do you know what I mean? It makes it even worse for everyone of Wolverhampton because this guy you're booing for the entire game and scores a hat trick against you. Do you know what I mean? And then at the end of the day, when he does his little conference in the tunnel, they bring that up and he just laughs again. And I'm just like, you're probably absolutely seeing steam coming out of people's ears. Obviously, like seeing that. I mean, it's funny because it is. I do feel for football fans because it always comes back. It always comes back to bite them some way. I was at Bristol City versus Coventry on the weekend. Bristol scored, in the first half, amazing goal, like volley, top bins, unbelievable. But Casey Palmer, ex Bristol City, comes off the bench to score the equaliser, celebrates, mass brawl with the players. Bristol City players aren't happy that he's celebrated. It's all kicking off. Fans are absolutely fuming. You can hear him going, Casey Palmer is a and it just the whole time it was just like everything comes out and you could hear it as you're walking out the stadium. It had to be him. It wasn't even the fact that they drew the game. It was just the fact that he scored that goal. But I love it. We're here now. We're talking about the Premier League. We're talking about football. It's great. It's great to be back, like on the field, off the field. It's already kind of shaping up to be quite a good season because you're going to see, do Everton survive? Are Everton going to survive
Terrible,
again this year? They look
terrible
they
this
look
weekend.
poor. Yeah, they look poor. I do worry still about Bournemouth and Brentford. I worry about Ipswich, obviously the new side, obviously coming up as well. It's going to be tasty down the bottom. I think it's not going to be like four or five. I'm talking it's like eight teams that
Mm.
could be struggling down there. Chelsea, if it has, I know against it's Wolves, but if it has clicked, do we see Chelsea,
Oh,
Newcastle, Villa, Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool? What do we
hold your
see there all
hold your
going for that?
hold your horses here, man. Hold your horses. Let's not get like. I mean, we were talking about Manchester City, maybe Arsenal getting involved in a title race. Look, the fallibility of Manchester United over the last few years has certainly increased. Tottenham, I mean, we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly from them already this season. I mean, they tore Everton apart, but then the first half and second half against Leicester was like chalk and cheese, Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, keep adding
Mm.
all of these kind of superlatives into it, and then like Liverpool, am I really trusting Liverpool with Arne Slot rather than Jurgen Klopp at this point? Not really, and I think that's what I'm looking at the Premier League right now. If you're saying to me like the carnage at Chelsea with the number of people, the investment that isn't really what we expected from Newcastle in terms of like the Saudi money
Mm.
and when it came in and what we thought, then you look at Manchester United that is just a ship that is seemed to be like seesawing one way to 1 minute. Why is it
Oh,
1 week Marcus Rashford is the greatest thing that's ever happened to
yeah.
football in that city, and the next week every pundit under the sun is destroying him. There is no nice middle ground for Marcus Rashford, and he kind of epitomises, I think, the thought process around Manchester United right now, who, you know, hard done by arguably this week. Obviously, the rules are what they are. Josh Xerxes is offside, but is offside, but you could understand why United fans would feel a little bit aggrieved to not be going away from the Amex with 3 points in the end, as it was.
Mm.
But you're looking at all of these top sides. I don't see any of them in that consistent level of a Manchester City, except for maybe Arsenal. And I'm sorry, but like
Mm.
history is just going against Arsenal at this point for whether they're able to sustain it or not. And that may sound
Sustain
harsh,
it, of
but like
course.
the,
Yeah.
yeah, if you've got priors, you've got priors, And I'm looking at a City
Yeah.
side
Yeah.
that keep
Yeah.
winning the Premier League title and an Arsenal side that don't. So that's why I'm going to go with
Yeah.
City. So let's not
Yeah.
start banding around that Villa were amazing last season. It's really difficult. You can have that one season of surging up to that upper
Yeah.
echelon. It's really difficult to sustain being there. We've seen many a club do it, and we've
Yeah.
seen many a club actually
Yeah.
get close to that and then fall right by the wayside. I mean, it
Right,
wasn't
so.
too long ago that we were thinking, oh, Everton could be a side that challenges for Europa League spots. I remember back in the day, obviously, we
Mm.
had Ipswich in what was then, I guess, the UEFA Cup at that
Up
point,
there.
and
Yeah.
then went back
Yeah.
down
Yeah.
2 seasons later. We've had Leicester City in the Champions League, and 4 years later, they're down in the doldrums fighting for their lives. So,
It's the consistency.
yeah,
Yeah.
maintaining that
I
place
think
is there.
Emre's got. I think Emre's a good enough manager to keep that going. Like he's got a track record. You talk about priors. He's good with these sorts of teams. He can. They're a side that get good results against those everything below them, and then they pick up little pieces here and there against the top side, so it keeps them a little bit consistent up there. And he is pretty good with that. Man United is an interesting one because I know you said obviously that goal was ruled out, which yeah, and it's the right call. Brighton, hit the bar. They had two or three
Hmm.
chances off the line. Man United defensively still don't look right, and this is This is where Ten Hag is the trophy he got obviously last year saved him because he can't defensively. He's not there. He's not a defensively sound coach. And if he's not, get some people that are around you, my friend, because you've gone and brought Van Nistelrooy in, and you've brought all these players. Like you've brought coaches in that look attacking minded. You're a side that was like facing 40, 30 shots, like whatever it is in games. Like you're looking at the wrong things here. You've got You've got good attacking players. You do. You've got Garnacho, and yes, Rashford might not be consistent, but he is an attacking force. People are still going to be worried about Rashford during the game. Like Højlund is a good player. You know, Bruno Fernandes on his days is one of the best midfielders in the league. Like on his day, yet you've got those attacking options. But you have gone into a season yet again where Maguire and Johnny Evans are still a big part of your back line. Rather, I know you brought in De Ligt, you brought in the other lad, obviously from Bayern Munich. These are still not. These aren't the big players that should be looking at. You know, you've gone and spent all this money on, like you say, Xerxes and a like of that. But go and spend. If you Man United typically will always spend 150, 200 million. Go and spend 100 million on another centre half that goes next to Martinez. Go and spend 70 million on a left back. What are you do? Like, what are you doing? Everyone, what is it that is in your head going, we need to go and buy more attacking players when your defense is one of the worst in the league? I think there was a point where they were like three-quarters way through the season and they're on -7 goal difference, mate. Like, what is happening?
I love this is coming from an Arsenal fan, considering that is what Arsenal did for so many years of get a defender, get a holding midfielder, and every transfer window it was, look, we got Santi Cazorla. That'll solve it all. I mean, it's the unfashionable thing. It's not the splashy transfer deal that is going to attract the same amount of attention unless you're buying a Virgil van Dijk and spending a load of money. But sometimes that's what it takes, and Liverpool showed us. You go out and you buy the best goalkeeper and the best centre back in the world, and everything gets a
Yeah,
lot easier than going forward.
yeah,
And to use the horrible, overly used cliche, but defense wins championships, doesn't it? Like it's just. It keeps ringing
facts.
true. If you build something solid from the back, Mourinho didn't win stuff with Chelsea by playing it super pretty. He didn't do that with Inter either. It was about being ugly, horrible, and solid at the back, parking a bus when you need,
Facts.
and then having enough decent talent going forward that can grab you one or two goals to make sure you win it. But if they don't score, you can't lose.
That's that's I look at Arsenal obviously now. You look at Saliba and Gabriel. Like I mean, it was one of the challenges Saliba put in against Villa. I mean, the guy's got like 20 yards on him, comes in, and they want to defend. They love to defend. You know, people are like, oh, is it a bit corny that they celebrate? I'm like, no. If you've got a back line like that, there is nothing worse, by the way, when you're throwing goal and a defender wiping you out like cleanly, winning the ball, and he's now stepping over you, celebrating it. Your all your confidence and that aura that you have as a forward player just boom
Mm.
vanished. Like unless you're like Messi, Ronaldo, or maybe even a Haaland who just Haaland finds it hilarious because he's just like, yeah, watch on the next one. But everyone else, and that's what I think happened to Ollie Watkins throughout the game. He missed a couple of chances, saves were coming in, they're celebrating around him, and that confidence just sort of dropped off. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting start. Well, it is an interesting start so far, but it's going to be an interesting season. I'm looking forward to it. The Another pre-season over somewhere else, though, my friend, is the NFL. I don't know how much of the pre-season that yawn that was about to come in there is about right for me when it comes to watching pre-season and NFL football because there's no starters. You don't really know. You see a couple of rookies starting to just get a little bit of a feel for it, but it is mainly really on the offensive line and D line that you get to kind of see these rookies. But in your sort of the special players you want to see, you don't see until normally snap one, but of the regular season. But has there been any sort of signs to you, sort of going, the Eagles are going to kick on again this year? You excited for the Eagles?
Sam, if anybody is taking preseason American football who isn't a member of the coaching staff or scouting staff at a team and trying to make judgments on it, they need their heads being cracked together and being walked down a very, very dark alley to a new place to go and watch a different sport because this is one of the worst times to be an American football fan because you have every media outlet trying to make stories out of stories. There was a rumor that Daniel Jones was being dropped by the Giants the other day because he threw two horrendous interceptions against the Texans. Now, don't get me wrong, I found that hilarious. But at the same time, this is the guy that the Giants have gone out and paid instead of Saquon Barkley. They're not just going to waive him off the roster because he has a bad preseason game, particularly when he's been semi-effective. And he's been a top 32 quarterback in the NFL over the last few years. And if you're a top 32 quarterback in the NFL, you're starting somewhere. So he's going to be starting at the Giants. They've paid him the money. Anything else is just complete fluff because most of us as fans, there are some fans that can really analyse the game, break things down, and actually see that third string guy that maybe could earn a starting spot on the roster later on in the season, or at least a backup spot in the secondary role. But everybody else shouldn't be thinking about anything to do with these preseason games. The only story coming out at the moment in the NFL that is really worth talking about is the Dallas Cowboys and how Jerry Jones is ballsing this up massively throughout this offseason with CD Lamb, Dak Prescott, and obviously Micah Parsons got his contract coming up round the corner as well.
Yeah.
How Jerry Jones is taking the three best players on this Dallas Cowboys team, a quarterback in Dak Prescott that has equal and comparable numbers to Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, you can talk about playoff football, getting it done in the clutch, etc. But statistically up there with Patrick Mahomes. How are you talking about one of the biggest receivers in the NFL in CD Lamb, a guy that has usurped some of the records set in Dallas by some of the greatest players of all time, including Michael Irvin, wearing that iconic 88 jersey that is huge if you've got that and a star on your helmet at the Dallas Cowboys. How he's almost turning these two against this franchise, and it looks like either CD's going to hold out even longer, and Dak potentially might not be re-signing a contract with the Cowboys when he comes around and wants to get paid, is staggering. And this is all about Jerry Jones and it being Jerry's world and Jerry's team, and nobody else matters. And it's ludicrous. Exactly. And I'm an Eagles fan, and I feel sorry for the Cowboys watching all of this because it's the capitulation of an entire sporting franchise by some fool that's running the show and thinks he's the big dog.
We don't feel sorry for the Cowboys.
All right, okay,
feel sorry for the Cowboys. That doesn't happen. That's
Cowboys
the wrong
fans,
choice of words there.
Cowboys fans, there's a little bit of empathy of how can you sit and watch this?
Unfortunate. It's unfortunate what's happening over in Dallas. That is what you said. It's unfortunate.
It is.
Yeah, it is. Do you know what CD Lamb might just be the number one receiver for me, the number one wide receiver in the league. Actually, in terms of consistency, I'm having him up there right now. I used to love obviously Devontae Adams. I think he's on the other way. Obviously, like D Hop, same thing. That little cluster now. If I then look at CD Lamb, it's I love Justin Jefferson. I just feel like CD Lamb, like the more all rounder in the game, like even off the when it's not being directed at him, he's not being targeted. I think is the better one. So for what they're doing, and the money he's asking for, by the way, is not big money. And I think the first offer they said it came in at under $33 million, and it's just like, what are you doing, Jerry? Like, do you actually want to win? It's just like, and there are literally now people sitting there in their little war rooms right now, going, I can smell a little bit of blood here for CD Lamb. Exactly. You're starting going, hold on, because we know Jerry likes the wheel and deal. Jerry likes a little bargain. What can we potentially give him? Because the other thing you got to look at is if there's uncertainty around Dak, not CD Lamb, but over Dak, but you're potentially going to win games. How do you go and get probably a cheap deal on a decent QB in the next year or two? Well, you're going to need draft capital. If you're playing well, you're not going to be up there. You're not going to be in the top 10. You're not going to be, getting a top 10 pick. So who are you looking at? Because you're going to be looking at some teams, and teams are going to be like, what can we do here? Who can we trade for to go and get one of these two right now? If you've got the draft capital right now, I think that's what Dallas might be looking at, because I think they're going to need that at some point. And that's the other thing, is just where they are. But Isn't it? Yeah, like you said, now it's just like what a couple of weeks we've got now before obviously the season starts. Few things get right, then day one is when we'll really kind of start to see who it is. People are going to get cut now. We're going to see what those rosters look like. There's a couple of injuries being picked up through pre-season, but yeah, I mean the game is interesting. We might as well do flag football during pre-season, huh?
Well, who do you get playing that? Because we got a warm up for 2028. And who do you want playing in your flag football in your Olympic team? Because that's a huge talking point at the moment. These flag football guys are coming out and saying the NFL players think they're just going to waltz in and play flag football for Team USA at the Olympics in Los Angeles. Nuh-uh, we're going to keep our jobs. Are you mental? Have you lost the plot completely? I respect the flag football game so much. 100%. There are elements to it that are different. But are you really thinking that if Patrick Mahomes wants to represent Team USA at the Olympics and he gets the nod from the Chiefs that it's okay, you think that the Olympic Committee of the United States of America are going to want unknown name or Patrick Mahomes at starting quarterback? Diana Flores will get a chance to play if they, and I'm pretty sure there is going to be a women's flag
Yeah,
football competition.
yeah.
She has been the face, the epitome of what the NFL is trying to do with driving flag
Hmm.
football forward. But when it comes to the men's, no one knows your name. No one
Hmm. Hmm.
knows who you are. I will take
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes. I'll take Zeke Elliott at the running back position over anybody else that's out there. And that's as an
Oh,
Eagles
it's
fan.
Tyreek Hill needs to be in there. Yeah, it's
Tyreek,
going to be.
AJ Brown, we're going to have Travis Kelsey, which means Taylor's going to be there, which means we're going to have the star
Yeah, oh,
power that the
that's going to
Olympics
happen.
wants. It's not going to
Yeah,
be you, buddy.
Justin Jefferson doing a gritty. It's gonna, yeah, here's my thing at the moment. Players that can represent another country, please do so though. It would be pretty cool. Like,
Oh, yeah.
you see like a few lads obviously that are coming from the international pathway, and a few others that are obviously already playing in the big league. Let's do that. I can't. It is a shame because I reckon. NFL flag is I was playing it. Got to play it again the other day. Really, it is enjoyable, especially for those like me, 5'7", very slight. I'm not getting hit when it's great. It's awesome.
Little Darren
To
Sproles out
me,
there.
oh yeah, but to me, it's British Bulldog. And we grew up at this in the playground. I know these. I know what the tactic is. I up who it is, and I go for the weak link. Give me the ball. They're not catching me. But it's cool. Like there's some good stuff obviously off the back of it. You're now there. I'm not saying someone like me. I'm far too old for this, but obviously it's these youngsters coming through, going, "Oh, I like this sport. I love it. I'm really good at it. Oh, it's in the Olympics. Oh, that's the goal." The other side is you work your nuts off, yeah, to get there, and then someone who's not been playing it other than a couple of games in the Pro Bowl now are going to take your spot. So whilst it's great, you want to see the big names. I do feel for these guys who are putting in the work right now.
I have sympathy, but like this is the beast you created. You wanted it in the Olympics. You wanted to push. That's awesome. But do you not have any sort of forethought about what was going to come down the line? We've got Dr. Dre saying he wants to compete in archery at the Olympics. The Olympics, particularly for Team USA, it seems, isn't about the sport as much. It's about getting the celebrity
Mm,
and the eyes and the
yeah,
attention. Why do you think Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart were there in freaking equestrian gear
it's the
at the side of
sponsors,
Olympic
right?
events?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what we're playing with now in this modern era. And if you, as a particularly as a
Yeah.
male flag footballer, thought that this was going to be your time to shine when there is a whole professional league with the greatest athletes getting the greatest treatment, it's not going to happen, buddy. I'm really sorry. The Olympic dream dies
I'm looking
today.
forward to it though. I'm looking forward to it. It'll be good fun though. I
So,
think it
oh
would be
yeah,
good fun. It'll just
Sam,
be interesting to see like what
w-
what teams get put out for each country.
well, that is interesting, and there's a lot of obviously talk of the if you could do an Olympic sport and you had 4 years to train, do you reckon you'd make it to the Olympics, etc. Have we got a shot, Team GB flag? 4 years of dedicated training now. Just saying.
I think we do.
I've got an arm.
I think we do. Uh,
You've got an arm
I'm
there.
there for it, mate. I'm there for it. I'm there for it. I need to see it. I need to see the spiral. I need to see it. I think it can happen. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot. I've been able to see quite a bit. Obviously, on the grounds, there's a lot of stuff going on here in the UK as well. And even look, shout out to Big Kid Foundation actually because they got a lot of like young talent, both on male and female. Obviously, coming into this, they've helped with the NFL UK getting into schools now. I'm going into, I've been into a few schools watching this, and there's like kids like 10 to 13 year olds like playing this game, and I'm looking again. It's been around for like 2 minutes, and
Mm.
they know the route running is they've got it. They know these plays. I'm seeing perfect spirals. I'm like, what is happening here? This is amazing. This is great to see. I'm almost like, right, when can I get my daughter into this early? When do they do like little kickers, but for an NFL flag? Like get her involved. But it's really good. I think the GB team will be up there. The women's GB team, very good. Definitely keep an eye out for them because they are very, very good. But yeah, I think between America, the UK, Mexico, and actually, I think it was Ghana. I think last time I looked, Ghana's team was unbelievable. So yeah, it will be interesting. It's going to be fun either way. Whoever it is that's taking part, it's gonna be fun.
I do. We will.
What about
We'll try and have a chat with Phoebe Schechter as well because I know she's announced her playing days are over when it comes to the contact sport of American football. But do you think Phoebe knows what she's doing there? I'll do some non-contact for four
Phoebe's
years,
phenomenal.
and I'm going to the Olympics. That's what she's looking at right now, 100%. I know
Phoebe
what she's like as
is
an athlete.
phenomenal. Yeah, yeah, she is, and I'm probably she won't mind me saying this. She's an absolute beast
Yeah,
when it comes to keeping herself in shape, and when it comes to obviously playing sport. And the competitive edge is nuts. Like when, as I said, I mentioned we do these events sometimes, and they're like, "Oh, Phoebe, do you want to coach one of the sides?" Yeah, these kids, as I said, like anywhere between like 10, 13 years old or whatever. Phoebe takes over. As soon as I see what team Phoebe's got,
that's winning.
that's it, they're winning.
Yeah.
She's on them. Like it's just the mind. Like, it's just like okay, yeah, she knows what she's doing. Yeah, and she gets people pumped up for it. She's class when it comes to that sort of stuff. But yeah, no, it will certainly be interesting. What we need now, mate, is a bit of go-karting to hit the Olympics. So then we can see like Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, and those guys whizzing around on go-karts for the Olympics. I need it. I'm starting this now, the petition to get them in, and these guys whizzing around. Verstappen trying to like topple people on his little go-kart, trying to it's so good. I want to see I
But
want to see
you
I
know,
want to see Toto Wolff there changing the tires.
Team GB are walking that. If go karting goes into
Yeah,
the Olympics, Team GB are walking that because we're just having Adrian Newey designing our go karts. That's all we've got, Adrian. Don't worry about the horrible world of F1, all that nastiness, whatever with Red Bull. Put it in the past. Team GB go kart is going to be a rocket fuel machine, and you stick Lando Norris and George Russell in those and have them nipping around the streets of Los Angeles. Perfect, mate. I'm with you on that one. I don't mind that
it'd be
at all.
class. It'd be,
I
it'd
mean,
be, it'd be class because I mean Lando's on a win streak now, isn't he?
Lando got it done in Verstappen's back garden, and that was.
Yeah.
I was going to make a joke about this morning. Oh, sorry, this weekend about there's going to be a lot of orange, but it's not going to be the orange that everybody wants to see. And then I saw Lando took pole, and I thought, well, this is getting tasty, very tasty indeed,
Yeah.
because that gap is coming down rapidly in both the constructors. Because Perez is struggling with Red Bull still right now, and it looks like he's going
Yeah.
to be on his way out come the end of this season. I think they'll have had enough. There's all the talk up in the air about Max joining Mercedes, obviously with Lewis going to Ferrari next season, and whether that could be a thing. Whether Max is looking at Lewis leaving and thinking there's a problem at Mercedes, so he's not going to join, or what. The only place I'd want to be going right now is McLaren because they are on a steady trajectory
Mm,
up. And
mm,
Lando Norris is
yeah.
in the perfect position with a young driver still in Piastri, who I think will know that he is behind Norris in terms of
The
experience
the two.
and
Hmm.
quality. And he is in a car that can win races and win races well. It was superb on this weekend. I know he didn't start well in Zandvoort and got beaten to the first corner, but after that,
Mm.
it was a great drive. I love Lando, and I love what's happening to this sport right now because we have got a competition on our hands in every sense of the word at the top of the grid.
Nick, well, this is a little taster. This is your little entree that you're getting, I think, for what we're going to see next year. And I am super pumped for it because if it's like 3 or 4 different teams winning, each week, where that constructors championship is like 5, 10 points in it, or the drivers' championship is like 5, 10 points in it. You're looking at it going, this is what we've been waiting for. And listen, I'm a big Lewis fan, and it was great, obviously, watching him go and win. And there was times he was doing what Verstappen was doing. He shot off into the wind and it finish, and then they'd cut to the next, the last 20, 30 seconds of the race, watching everyone else come through. It's it's great, and when it's your driver, it's great. But I tell you what, whether you're a neutral, you do have you have a driver that you prefer or a team you prefer. When you win and it's tight, it just means so much more. Seeing these drivers, the other day, I can't remember what race it was, when you watch like four cars like go over the finishing line, like within 5 seconds of each other. It was like, this is what we wanted to see, because something can still happen on the
Mm.
last lap. You don't know whether the car's going to give out. You don't know whether someone just has enough, tries something, and wipes someone out. And that is what you want to see in Formula One. You don't want to see this someone like 20, say like 20 seconds ahead, or start, oh, to get a grid penalty, and you're like, well, they're still going to win. It's just the crazy thing. You were watching the likes of Verstappen, that gets a penalty or has a shocker in qualifying. He's starting 15th, he's still going to win the race. Like,
Yeah.
it's insane. Like, and that's what we're looking forward to. I do. I still question Ferrari. I know Lewis going there, but I just feel like the reliability and the team decisions they make tactically still aren't right.
I think
Look, do you see it changing?
I think Fred Vasseur has brought a level of stability this season.
Mm,
Ferrari are more boring than they were under Mattia Binotto, which,
mm,
from an
mm.
F1 fan point of view, isn't great because you like the drama of Formula
Yeah.
One. But the development of the car has slowed dramatically over the last season and a half, and I think that's the problem. And I
Mm,
think it's highlighted more by the leaps that we've seen from Mercedes and particularly from McLaren. I mean, this time last year, 12 months ago, we were saying, "Oh, McLaren are coming along. Like they look like they could be an interesting team to watch." And by the end of last season, we were excited to see what McLaren could do this year, and they've taken that into this new season, thankfully. Whereas Ferrari have stagnated. This era, it's great as well, by the way. Just going back to a point that you were making earlier about how next season could be the one in terms of a great season, right? Please, Formula One, stop. Stop changing the rules, changing the technical
mm,
specs, because next season is the last season before another change and overhaul in engine
mm,
regulations and the fuel that's going to be used in these cars comes in. And it's the start of a new engine era in F1. And that tends to lead to one team getting a jump ahead of everybody else who've been able to manipulate the regulations to get the better of the car than anybody else
mhm,
has got.
mhm.
And then everybody else plays catch up for 4 years. We get a great season like we had 2021, for instance, with Hamilton
Yeah.
and Verstappen in the last era of those aerodynamic regulations. And everyone goes, "Oh, we want more of that next season." And everyone goes, "Oh, don't worry about it. We've changed all the regulations, and Red Bull are going to have a 20-second lead on everybody else next year because they've worked it out better." So
Yeah.
don't change anything for next season or the
Yeah.
year after or the year after that, because we're getting what we wanted with these aerodynamic regulations.
Yeah.
If the grid is getting more compact, Williams, the likes of Alex
Mm.
Albon, are able to compete up into the top tens every single other or
Yeah.
every other week if they can
Yeah.
get there. There's only a few really that are stagnating and aren't able to produce at least a couple of stellar drives a season that shock everybody and get
Mm.
themselves in a top 10 in qualifying or something like that. So we are at
Mm.
a good point with Formula One in terms of
Yeah.
viewing,
Yeah.
and the constant changing of the regulations for the better to be carbon neutral, etc., means that we suddenly go back to a reset button where somebody will have a head start and we have to do all of this concertinaing again and getting everybody close with each other. And that's the
Is
frustrating
it
thing about the
cycles then?
sport.
Is it cycles then that they need to look at and go, right, there are no changes for 3 years. You got It's almost like a year to trial, year to get better, year at your best, and then we make changes. Because I think then you've got to make a decision and go, right, year to trial, year to get better, or we didn't get that much better. They start to then announce what might be happening in the fourth year. You're going, right, we have a go, we try and get the money up or whatever in the next season, but let's try and get ahead of the game for that. So at least you're then, so someone's always going to be trying to get ahead, but at least the cycle's not going to last forever. because someone's then got to
Mm.
make these little decisions. Like you said, it does change a little bit too often, and people obviously preempt certain things, and only one bit changes. I feel like you've got to do just a wholesale changes together at once. So then, like you
And
say, it gets a little bit better that way.
and I'd leave it for like 7 years genuinely because we've had what 2022 these aerodynamic regulations came in, so we're now in the third year of
Mm,
it, and now we're seeing it get
mm,
really good and exciting to watch.
really
So
good.
it needs at least 3 to 4 years for everybody to
Mm,
catch up with everybody else, which then almost defeats the point of
hmm
having the regulations and the teams working so hard to manipulate them. But at the end of the day, would you rather,
mm,
as a sport, as speaking as the body of F1, would you rather have more seasons like we had with Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes cantering away at it, or would you rather have what we're having
mm.
at the moment, which is there's 4 or 5 drivers that can win every single week? Which one's going to get you better viewing figures? It's a rhetorical
Yeah,
question, isn't it?
yeah, correct. Yeah, and I hear that. I hear that. It's
But
it's yeah.
it's good to
Sport
watch now.
changes, right?
And look, stuff has to change for
Yeah,
safety, 100%. But and F1 is doing it for the right reasons. We're trying to be as carbon neutral as possible and limiting the effect and the impact on the environment. All for that, not against it at all. But I'm just saying, like, once we've had these
mm,
engine regulations, because they're talking about making the cars smaller again to encourage the overtaking, which, again, we've got these huge cars now compared to what they were. They do need to be made smaller. But if we
I
change
do.
that, we're changing the aerodynamics again. And then
Mm.
we're going into another different cycle because that'll be introduced in another 3 years
They are
after
too big.
2026. Yeah.
They're too big, especially for the street races.
Yeah.
They're too big.
But we don't need street races because street
They're
races
ridiculous.
are rubbish. Street races, aside from
Got to
Monaco,
keep Monaco.
yeah, aside from
Yeah,
Monaco, are
yeah,
meaningless to me.
yeah,
Baku's
yeah,
good because you're
yeah,
driving on a 4-lane freeway. But everything else, proper racing
yeah,
circuits produce great racing.
yeah,
If everything else around there
yeah,
is is
yeah.
is comparable.
Is there? Yeah, no, I hear that. I hear that.
Um,
Somewhere where you don't have any crashes, mate. What's going on in the golfing world, my friend? What's happening?
well, we're having a bit of, shall we say, a discussion about the format at the end of the PGA season. So the PGA season,
Okay.
it's called the Race to the FedEx Cup. It's kind of the overall championship, if you will. And obviously,
Yeah,
it's America, so we
yeah,
have to have a playoff format of some sort, right? So you have all of
yeah,
these competitions
yeah.
throughout the year. Every single week there's a golf tournament. You earn FedEx Cup points. If you win a major or if you win one of
Mm,
these tournaments, obviously there's a huge amount of points can launch you right up the rankings board,
yeah.
etc. So then you've got your leaderboard. Top 70 go into the first round of the FedEx Cup playoffs. That gets, excuse me, that gets
That's it.
trimmed. That was coming from about
Yeah,
30 seconds as well. That sneeze.
yeah,
That gets whittled away down to the top 50, and then this week at the BMW Championship, the top 50 gets whittled down to a top 30. But it's not
yeah.
the case that if you finished in the top 30 at the BMW Championship, you go through. It's you have to go and earn enough points to get yourself in the FedEx Cup overall season standings with your finish at the BMW Championship to earn a place at the FedEx Cup Championship in the grand finale there. This has caused a few problems with particularly Scotty Scheffler, for instance, this year, who has been a dominant force. I think it's 6 or 7 wins now on the PGA Tour, more than anybody else. Nobody else has got more than 2 to their name this year. And Scotty Scheffler's kind of gone, is it the grand finale, really? I mean, I'm leading the standings by a canter. The only person that could have caught him really was Xander Schauffele, who needed to win this week to even have a chance of
Mm,
knocking Scheffler off the top spot. Hasn't been the case. And Scheffler goes into this finale at East Lake with the top spot in hand, and that means he gets to start at, I think, like 12 under par, 10 under par for next week, which is, and
mm,
everybody else below then starts at 8, 6, 4 under, etc. I mean, it's such a bizarre scenario where you have this race to the playoffs, and the playoffs
mm,
boil down to one last tournament. So does that negate all
mm.
of the work that you've done, really, to be top of the standings? Because if you're top of the standings at this point, surely you've won the season. Just
Yeah,
because you go to
yeah.
East Lake next week, what if Scotty Scheffler has a meltdown, drops 7 shots on the first day to somebody else, say Ludwig
Mm,
Orber. Orber puts himself in contention to take the top spot and wins it over the next 3 days next
mm.
week. Ludwig Orber wins the FedEx Championship, right?
Felix.
Like that.
Yeah,
That doesn't seem
yeah.
right because Scotty Scheffler has, without a doubt, been the best golfer all year and consistently the best golfer all year. But because he's had one meltdown, that means that Ludwig Orber eventually goes and finds the
You
victory.
know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Lewis Hamilton's eighth championship because he's so far ahead in the last lap, 20 seconds ahead. What should be his championship, and then they suddenly change it slightly. It's like that. You've been so good consistently, obviously good all season, but in that race, job done, and then it's kind of taken away. It kind of gives me those vibes. I mean, you never know; he might get arrested again as well. You just don't know, right?
He's
So
such
he
a
just,
renegade, Scotty Scheffler, isn't he?
yeah, yeah,
Such an outlaw, this guy.
um, yeah. Strange format, like you said. It's like
It reminds me
everyone
of Major
wants
League
this
Soccer, right?
Netflix finish.
It
Oh
reminds me of
God,
Major League
don't.
Soccer because you
Yeah,
have the race. I can't remember what they call it now, but it's the overall league standings winner wins
yeah,
something for the
yeah.
league part of the campaign before the playoffs. But no one
Mm,
really cares about that because everybody wants to win the MLS Cup,
no.
which is at the end of the playoffs. So you
Yeah,
have all of this hard work to
yeah,
win
yeah.
something that you're not that fussed about, but the fans will celebrate it if you don't win the MLS Cup. And then you have
Yeah,
5 games
yeah.
that decide suddenly the playoffs and who's going to end up winning the actual tournament and the trophy that everybody wants.
Tournament.
So you've got this
Yeah,
build up, which then just kind of means nothing except the one thing going for the
nothing.
PGA is that you get a few extra shots over your opponents going into the last event of the year. But that seems odd, having this like staggered leaderboard of somebody starts at -12, somebody else at -10, somebody else at -8. I get it because it means there is something worthwhile fighting for towards
Yeah.
in that kind of
What's he
season
got
standings.
then? Four stroke
He gets
lead at the start.
he gets a 2-shot lead over the guy who finished second in the
Damn.
FedEx Cup standing. Yeah, 2-shot lead. Yeah, and it staggers down by
I
two
don't think that's
shots.
enough.
But that's what I mean. It just doesn't feel right. You've done a season long graft of work to start 2 shots ahead of somebody, which can be gone in an instant in golf if you go out at the wrong time in the wrong conditions or something like that. I mean, it just.
Four for me. Four is. I
Mm,
think. I mean, four's look nice. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think you look at it. I mean, you afford yourself a little bit of room, but you got to remember the swing of it, isn't it? Right? You're gonna go if he your competitors on par, but you keep bogeying, then obviously they catch you up. But at the end of the day, you bogey and they're sinking birdies. That even that four can, like you said, can go real quick.
yeah.
Like if you're having a bad day, but it do you? I think you've either got to scrap it completely. Yeah, at the end of the day, that format, and he just wins the cup, and whether he wins it, if he wins it with four comps in hand, then he wins it with four comps in hand. It's like, it's what's that, Man City, 10 points clear. Oh no, no, I tell you what, last game of the season,
Yep.
yeah, if you concede a goal, that's -5 points. If you score a goal, it's plus this. You're suddenly finding yourself. You could have a little bit. That makes no sense. You've got to come up with, if you're that good and you're that far ahead, reward the person. It's as simple as that. If you want to keep things potentially interesting on that last day, it's about the people that weren't that good, and it's then prize money at the end of the day. If you can still catch someone, then you catch someone, and you just see movement on the board, and you get certain things there, but or a chance to make a team for something, another competition or something like that. But the competition itself, if he's been that good,
If you've got a season
that is,
long
I mean, if he loses, mate, wow,
if you've got a season long race that you design to boil down to 4 days, what's the point in a large part of the season long race? Like, if you do enough,
mm,
it's what I mean. Like, if you do enough to be in the top 5, you're in contention going into this weekend because anything can happen in golf anyway, and you'll be at most, 10 shots off the leader, but that can change
yeah,
very quickly
it's
in
basketball,
two
mate.
rounds or something.
It's NBA.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
NBA.
Shoot,
You play
shoot,
80
shoot,
games.
shoot,
Do you
shoot.
need to win 80 games?
No.
Yeah, but do you need to win it? You don't need to win your 80 games. At the end of the day, you do enough, and then you put your bench on for about 5 games. Then you come, we're falling a little bit out of contention, right? Put the big hitters in, and then eventually, right, okay, playoff time, getting close to playoff time. Now it means something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, why play 80 games? It's just shorten it then, so it stays competitive all the way through. Like, I don't really watch NBA until we're getting towards the end.
Yeah,
You
no.
know, like when it's like 50 games are played, then you might start to watch. Like, okay, the season's to me is now starting.
It's
Because
like the NBA
it's
brought in that
mental.
mid-season tournament as well. They brought in a mid-season
Oh,
tournament, which no one cares
yeah,
about. You've now got the play-in games, like the special get into the
mm,
playoffs tournament. That again, like
yeah,
it's creating drama for the sake of drama when we were all happy with the top 8 go through. Like,
yeah, yeah.
and it just like, do you have to win that mid-season tournament? No, you don't. Doesn't
No,
mean
no,
anything.
it
The
doesn't
players
mean
don't
anything.
care. Giannis
Yeah,
Antetokounmpo, what are you going to do with the extra 100,000 you won this week winning this tournament? And he's like, do we get paid for this?
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
a
You're not
drop
even
in the
noticing.
ocean. Like, he's getting 4 million
Yeah,
off an
yeah.
advertising deal that he's got coming up with Colgate or someone. Like, oh great,
And
hundred
this is
thousand.
why I prefer. Like I say to me, I prefer the NFL. You just you cannot falter. Like you can get away with maybe like 4 or 5 if depending on your division. Do you know what I mean? But even those 4 or 5, you know that team's like gone at it. They're not like
Mm-hmm.
resting people or anything like that until towards the end if they've already clinched playoffs or whatever. But that's why I love that obviously a little bit more. But yes, sports about being competitive. And in the day, whatever sport you're playing, you should be playing to win, not coasting through. And if the leagues and organisations are putting these little things in place to allow that to happen, people are going to take what they need to. It's like we just come back to the loopholes. I don't really need to win too many of these. What you're basically saying is I need to stay in the top 70. Let me look at the points here. If I can stay in the top like 20, 30, there is actually a chance for me to win this at the end. Is
Mm-hmm.
basically what you're saying. I'm only going to be potentially 4 or 5 strokes off the leader going into this tournament. I've, and I've not had to play my best golf. I'm healthy. I'm great. That's what you're allowing to potentially happen. But yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, going forward, and if he doesn't win, we'll definitely hear that kicking off for sure because he's been class. I mean, if anyone asks you who the best golfer is right now, he's only one person, right? So
Yeah.
it's like people are still going to say that, and if it turns out he doesn't win it, because they're going to like, huh? How hasn't he?
I mean, it's
He's
happened
won
before.
so
Like,
much.
I think Rory's come from 4 or 6 shots down in the past to win the FedEx Cup. Obviously, Victor Hovland came back and won it last year as well. He didn't start at the top of the leaderboard or
Mm,
anything. So it happens a lot. But does it really mean? Does it? Yeah, you're not the best golfer of the year if you win the FedEx Cup
mm,
Championship. Like, it's just
yeah,
not the case. The Tour
too
Championship
much.
doesn't mean it. You're the best golfer of the year
Yeah.
if you win majors and if you're at the top of the leaderboard right now, which Scotty Scheffler and Xander Schauffele have been the best 2 golfers this season. That's why they're 1 and 2 going into Eastlake. So
hmm Yeah. Mental. Mental. Well, it's been a good week, mate. Good week of sport to come back to. Lot about to happen again, as we know, because obviously, yeah, as you said, football is back. We're 2 weeks out from the NFL. We are seeing a few changes, obviously, in the NHL, MLB. The roster's obviously changing quite a bit, so we'll obviously cover that off. Yeah, we're going to start to see a few bits pick up in rugby as well. If we start to cover that a little bit more for
mate,
for the fans, as it
big
were, we have to see what's happening.
big thing off
It's
the
sport is sport.
big thing off the pitch on Thursday for you, mate. Champions League draw.
Don't. Yeah,
The
I
new
don't.
look.
Don't. Let's bring this up next week when the draw is done. But just a little bit. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan. I love the group. Bring me back the group stages. Because have we not just touched on the fact that there could be meaningless games. This is what I'm this, and we will touch on it again. But let's wait to see what the draw is, who it is, what games we're playing, and then I'll tell you. If we got a nice easy run, then I'll love it, and we'll discuss it then. Yeah. Where can we find you this week, mate? Are you covering anything this week?
Oh, I am. I am on the Champions League this week. Actually, I've got Harrogate against Preston North End of the Carabao Cup. If anybody wants to
Big,
watch on Sky Sports
big.
Plus, and then we've got Slovan Bratislava, excuse me, against Midtjylland which was a sensational first leg in Denmark. So it's going back to Bratislava, one apiece, and Slovan Bratislava have never been in the Champions League proper. So it's potentially a huge night for them. Midtjylland are now the up and coming side in Danish football. And I know you'll smirk at that, Sam, but if a club like them, the size of them, have been able to now compete with the likes of FC Copenhagen in Denmark, that's like a Brighton being able to compete with the likes of Arsenal and Manchester City and stuff like that. So it's a big night for those two sides. So join on TNT Sports if you fancy joining myself and Aaron McLean.
All over it, mate. All over it. It's a shame where you can't get. I need the phone-ins, mate, to you at some point. Just like start sending you random questions from anonymous. Like that's what I need. I need you in that format, mate. That's what we need.
What's this lad up
See,
up
see if
front
you
at
can guess
Midtjylland
it.
doing? What's it? Is he going to be Premier League ready? Do you reckon? Is it worth Arsenal buying him? Asking
Yeah.
for a friend?
Yeah, yeah. That's what we would. Well, I need this segment so that you got to guess which comment was from me. That's what we need. But yeah, mate, we'll definitely catch you on there. Obviously, guys will be able to see this in usual formats on YouTube. We will start putting this out on an audio format for you as well. So when you're on your train or you need something to pound the treadmill with, as it were, potentially, obviously have a little listen on those little formats, and we'll have that out to you. But that has been another week in sport.